Good evening, folks, and welcome to Stan Marley in... The Sinister Cinderella! Starring Question the Majority as Detective Stan Marley, KingAtticus as Slick, Question the Majority as Officer Dingy Willis, and Garrenn as Sylvia. This production was not recorded in front of a live stereo audience, but we like to pretend it was. Now on to our featured programme.
Sunday, July 15th, 1945. The time was 3:24 p.m. I walked toward one of our many local banks here in South Belleville. Light bounced off the gold trim that surrounded the place, making it look as ritzy as it was. Men in business suits came pouring through the revolving doors, carrying briefcases full of paperwork as they headed to who knows where in the name of their trade. I had received a call from the local police to meet them down there. Apparently, a theft had taken place. $50,000 were missing, and not a single sign of a struggle could be found. It wasn't all too surprising, though, at least not for me. While I hated to degrade the local police, they tended to be less than adequate. As I entered, I was greeted by the soothing sound of a small fountain in the dead center of the place. It was surrounded by cute little plants that matched the area. In the background, behind one of the many desks, I could see the safe open and police searching it, looking for any clues that might be there. Chances are that even if there were, they would be lazy and leave them all for me to go through. Figured. Suddenly, my face was attacked by the cheerful grin of Officer Dingy Willis. Dingy was a goofy-looking little man with a bushy mustache and a gap between his teeth that gave him a look to match his personality. I often found him being put on the same cases as I was, which was a great displeasure to me. This was because he was rather incompetent and a mediocre cop at best, not to mention downright cheerful to the point of annoyance. Needless to say, I could do without seeing him myself. "Stan, you're here! It's about time! My boys, they don't know what they're doing at all," I'll say. "Have you found anything at all yet?" "No, sir. Whoever did this knew what they were doing." "Maybe, but I do have a suspect in mind. One who would know what he was doing." "You mean old Slick? Yeah, he seems to elude us pretty often." "That's the exact one." I had to admit, I had my mind made up as soon as I heard it was a theft. This was because Slick, as we had taken to calling him, was quite the master thief and often a person of interest. Slick was an elusive fellow indeed. Dingy and I knew this all too well, as he had botched up many of our cases and gotten away with the loot. Slick was mostly known to get away because he was just so mysterious. He always kept his face covered with his trench coat upturned and his hat pulled down low. All you ever saw of his face was a shadow with eyes peeking out of it. No one knew his name either, thus coining the nickname Slick from our boys. He took up with it immediately and has used it as an alias ever since. If anyone was responsible for this case, it was more than likely him, all right. "Well, you're probably right. You're gonna go after him?" "Not until I have sufficient evidence, since it'd be a waste of time otherwise. Of course, with nothing really to lead on, I may have to go with my gut instinct." "Well, you're the dick here, not me. Feel free to look around for all the clues you want." "I'll get right to that, Dingy." And so I did. Dingy was right. Whoever had done this had used gloves, so no prints were left behind, and it was a simple enough trick that anyone could have done as well. There were no footprints either, like whatever shoes they had been wearing were very petite and clean. I'd never seen quite a lacking in evidence before. I decided to check and see if there were any witnesses. There weren't. While the crime had been committed in broad daylight, whoever done it must have been so subtle as to not draw attention to themselves. It was apparently done by an everyman. With nothing left to go on, I figured I would do as I promised Dingy and go on my intuition. Even though I lacked the evidence to convict Slick, or even arrest him for that matter, I could still get a lot of information by questioning him. Even if he were innocent by some chance, he could give me a look into the mind of a criminal. The ultimate problem now was finding him. It wasn't like he would go out hiding his face all the time, and if that were the case, none of us knew what he looked like. I decided that I'd have to get clever with this one. Think of something that would really lure him in.
And now, folks, a word from the people we are pretending to be our sponsors.
Why are Camels by far America's most popular cigarette? Two of the reasons are flavor and mildness. No other cigarette has Camel's rich, full flavor, and no other cigarette offers this proof of mildness. In a coast-to-coast test of hundreds of people with normal throats, noted throat specialists reported not one single case of throat irritation due to smoking Camels. Try Camels yourself. Then you'll know why Camel leads all other brands by billions of cigarettes per year.